What is going on, everyone? It's your guy, Cole Jackson, back here on Road Graders, brought to you today on the Russell Street Report, courtesy of DNL Tinting. I'll put the link down in the description below. Go check out dltinting.com for all the services they can provide you and your vehicle. We are going to be diving into a post NFL scouting combine 7-round mock draft. Obviously, the combine being a huge landmark. You will see lots of fluctuations in expert mock draft sims, all that good stuff. So I waited till this. Usually I do this as mock draft Monday. Obviously, this is coming to you on a Thursday. I wanted to give some time, just let the combine digest. Let some of these rankings update. I think it's more fun to kind of see what it looks like after the combine, because it is really how things fluctuate throughout the draft process. So let's dive into it. Same as always, we're on Pro Football Focus doing another mock 7 rounds with the Ravens, and we will roll it down to the 27th pick. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be dependent on what happens with Ronnie Stanley. I have heard a lot of positive things about that deal getting done. This sets up really interestingly for that situation, because I think if the Ravens don't sign Ronnie Stanley to a long-term extension, there's really no one else in free agency. I think they're going to be pigeonholed into basically having to go left tackle, which means I'd be going pretty hard at Kelvin Banks here. But I'm going to use the assumption they keep Ronnie until next week, when we find out for sure whether or not he's hitting the open market. So I'm going to be looking at, Kelvin Banks still factors in, could be a guard as he transitions into the NFL. Interesting names pop up here. You got James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, Derek Harmon out of Oregon, Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. And for those that have been following this week to week, this is really the fluctuation I've been talking about. These guys, all three were basically gone in most mocks prior to. James Pierce Jr. is obviously a very interesting guy. One of those juiced up pass rushers. You can see it there with a 23% win rate. 8 sacks, 43 hurries. When I watched his film, very similar to Odafe Owe against Oklahoma and Alabama, I watched him get missed sacks on 4 opportunities because of broken tackles. So, despite that, though, I am going to go with James Pierce Jr. There's been a lot of talks about him and character concerns. It seems to be more stemming to his attitude rather than anything to do with criminal history or anything like that. Those concerns came up around Mike Green, but I'm going to go with James Pierce Jr. And I think to get after an edge rusher at pick 27, the Ravens have to go after someone that might be a little bit more of a quote unquote risk. It's just tough to get a guy at that spot that checks all of those boxes. And I think Pierce is one of the most juiced up pass rushers. It's all going to be about whether or not he can start to wrap up on his sack opportunities. I know we always make jokes around Owe, but if he can still bring consistent pressure, I think that's a huge value add to the Ravens. So as we move on, you can see a lot of interesting names here. I really want to go corner here early, and I'm actually going to go with Ben Morrison out of Notre Dame. So the Ravens going back-to-back picks on their defense. So adding there, O-line through 2 picks is feeling a little bit of a risk because some of the names that have gone, as you can see on the left-hand side. But, I think building up some of this on defense, going with James Pierce and Ben Morrison, add to 2 big needs on the defense. And as we roll around, big debate here would be between Wyatt Malum, Tate Ratledge, and Charles Grant. All 3 guys, this is a perfect scenario for the Ravens after their first 2 picks. I'm going to go with Wyatt Malum because he can step in day one as a guard, but he has that extra ability to play tackle. Again, I'm working off the scenario that Ronnie Stanley will be retained. Tate Ratledge as a pure guard, very good prospect, really fits what they want to do. But I really like Malum having that tackle ability in case there is an injury. The Ravens are very thin at tackles on the roster right now, so they bring in Wyatt Malum. This has worked out really well through 3 picks, in my opinion. BPA guys at positions of need. I think this just works out really well for what the Ravens need to be doing to build up some of their talent. And so we go into pick. What are we at here? We're in the 4th round with our original. We pick again in about 8 picks too. So this is where, things get a little bit more interesting. You got to start thinking about BPA filling in some of those needs, that sort of thing. Not really seeing a lot to love here. Do they go with a Jack Kaiser? That's a tough one. I really, if they're going to get a linebacker, I want a coverage specialist. It feels a little early for Ryan Mills, who's a guy that I've been pretty interested in. Billy Bowman's an interesting guy out of Oklahoma. Elijah Huzzy, Kyle Williams. They go with a wide receiver. This becomes one of those tough ones. Kyle Williams is one of the more interesting ones. Not tall, but a bigger body, plays physical, good production, 14 touchdowns out of Washington State. I think we're going to roll with a wide receiver here just because I think it fits what they need to go get the most. And so that gets us through 4 picks here. We've addressed edge, corner, the O-line, and a wide receiver. Still more to do on the O-line. There's still the need here for an interior defensive lineman as well. I think we'll go Ryan Mills here. Ryan Mills is an older prospect. I mean, he's got a pretty high floor. The ceiling isn't crazy high, but it's that 14.3% pass rush win rate. He put together really good pressure numbers over the last 2 years. I think this works out really well as sort of a replacement for Brent Urban, as a guy that can play some of those run stuffing roles, but he's going to give you more pass rush upside as a rotational guy to develop there. It's just when they're a little bit older like that, it kind of, takes the ceiling off a little bit, but, I'm feeling pretty good about where we've addressed so far. I'll be interested to see the opinions on Pierce and Ben Morrison. I think they're 2 really solid picks, but some others might have different opinions there. Tonka Hemingway kind of stands out to me here in this next grouping. I'm actually going to go and grab Jack Nelson, and Jack Nelson's going to become our developmental swing tackle, adding him into the mix. Again, the Ravens have barely any tackles on the roster right now, so they're just going to have to fill that out. That gives you Jack Nelson's going to be your pure swing. Wyatt Malum is a kind of a starter at guard that can also play tackle in a pinch. But we're doing a really good job through these picks of filling out some of the needs. Still need a safety. Dante Thornton Jr. is there. It's hard to see them go wide receiver, but I mean, they're also pretty thin in the wide receiver room. Dante Thornton's he's a speed burner, right? 4.3 guy, good size, good contested catch rate. He's had 376 deep yards this year. So a true deep threat that they could add in. I'm actually going to go with Dante Thornton because we have a bunch of picks coming up here. I'd rather target some guys that I'm interested in that I think could really round out this roster. Jay Higgins is one of those guys that had a very bad combine that I was interested in as a coverage linebacker. He tested really poorly. Probably going to just kind of sit on him. I'm actually going to go grab Jackson Slater. So we've added a swing tackle. I want to add 3 O-linemen. That's for sure. We've added a true guard, a guy that can be a guard and a tackle, and then a true tackle. I feel like that's a really good balance of addressing the O-line and bringing in competition. Luke Lachey stands out to me, but it really depends on what they're going to do with maybe we go grab Malachi Moore and grab the safety out of Bama. Hunter Woller's there. Everyone's probably sick of me picking Hunter Woller in every mock. We're gonna grab Malachi Moore there, and I'm actually gonna double dip and grab Hunter Woller, but he's listed as a safety. I think he's going to transition into being more of a dime linebacker, and that's what I'm getting him here. I've mentioned I want a coverage linebacker. That's what I think this pick addresses. They're probably going to go back to Trent Simpson. He can be that kind of early down guy. Hunter Woller can sub in as a sub package linebacker safety, mix. So now going into our last pick of the draft, we've done a pretty interesting job of addressing most of the remaining needs around this team. See what we can get here to kind of round this draft out. Maybe we go grab Tommy Hiller. Let's grab Mac McWilliams, grab another corner. So that's where we finish here. So again, James Pierce Jr. added as that kind of souped up pass rusher. We've added Ben Morrison out of Notre Dame. Wyatt Malum, who's going to come in and compete at guard on day one, while also giving us some long-term ability or some flexibility at the tackle position. We've also added Kyle Williams at wide receiver. I think he's a guy that could kind of step in and play in that role. Ryan Mills, Jack Nelson, Dante Thornton, Jackson Slater, Malachi Moore, Hunter Wooler, Mac McWilliams round out this draft. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this draft. Let me know if it hit the needs. Drop that comment. Hit that like button if you are new here. And thank you to DNL Tinting for sponsoring this episode.